All right, so you were recently representing 1XXM
Yes.
in Azerbaijan.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I myself have to play with the wording, the syllables, the syllables.
What was it? What was it about? And under whose auspices?
Okay, the host was the Baku Initiative Group, short and big, and in French it was GIB, because I kept hearing GIB and I realized, oh, that's the acronym in French, which is a movement of non-aligned group or of countries, and basically they have one aim. From all the discussions in the last year plus, it's all about ending colonialism, ending neo-colonialism, colonialism, whatever form it is in. They pretty much have declared that it's against, you know, the principles of human rights and human dignity, full liberation of the humans, etc.
Right.
So it's under that conversation that all these remaining colonies, by whatever names they are given, especially by the colonizing forces like the Netherlands, I would say, it's not a colony, it's a country within the kingdom. No, it's a colony. So all of the different pro-liberation, pro-independence groups were invited to this one in Azerbaijan, which is a follow-up to New York last month, which was on the, you know, ending colonialism, and the role of the C24. And the C24 is that special group, at the special decolonization group at the UN. This one focused a lot on the French territories or the French colonies, and so, you know, Polynesia, Corsica were there, but New Caledonia, Kanaki, Guyana, Martinique, Guadeloupe were all there in full force, and St. Martin. And the good thing about 1SXM, One St. Martin, it represents both sides of the island, and so we were able to talk about the reality of St. Martin, but also lend our support to this effort, which is a united liberation front that we signed on to. And out of the Dutch kingdom was also Bonaire, was also there, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
it was St. Martin and Bonaire.
It was St. Martin and Bonaire there, Bonaire Human Rights, and also the United Peoples, I can't remember the exact translation, but Mr. James Finis was also there. And so you had one St. Martin, 1SXM, and Bonaire out of the Dutch territories that also lended our support to this United Liberation Front.
Now,
yes.
How is this movement going to help the 1SXM movement in your initiative? Because you're going international now.
Yeah, we've been with the big boys though, right? No, because we have been saying for years, and you know, I still am officially, even though it's a foundation, the Independence for St. Martin Foundation, the secretary, right? But the foundation cannot have membership, and so 1SXM became an offspring of the Independence for St. Martin Foundation, and as an association, we can now have membership, which is what 1SXM does, and we were able to join as a non-governmental organization, the CARICOM Reparations Commission. So our effort is to be decolonized, to be fully decolonized, to become independent one day, and by aligning ourselves with other pro-liberation movements, we lend our support, but they also support us. So just like with CARICOM, that has now taken up our conversation in the CARICOM action plan also. So the revision of the 10-point plan includes our voice as an associate member. Also in this Liberation Front, our voice was included. In fact, there's a paragraph there dedicated to one St. Martin coming out of the Netherlands, and then also there was a similar paragraph dedicated to Bonaire. So it's about uniting against evil, uniting against colonization, uniting against whatever forms of neo-colonialism, that we come together and start to speak with one voice.
What were some of the things that stood out for you at that gathering last week?
This one was really touching because the whole situation in Kanaki is still very fresh. When we were in New York, it was actually happening, right? I think the French government had just gone back in and it kind of quelled the major uprising, but people had already lost their lives, people already incarcerated, etc. And so here now, a month later, you're getting some of the reality that were expressed, right? Again, people lost their lives, people are incarcerated, but not just in Canada. anarchy, also in Martinique, you get a taste of what happened on the ground, Guadeloupe, etc. And I think unless you get in a forum like this where you get to speak for yourself, people don't hear your story. And so what was touching was, there was one woman, I'm trying to remember her name now, but from Guadeloupe, who listed off some people who died, who were killed by the French state in whatever format. And another gentleman that was there from another organization says to her, in reference to one of the names that she mentioned, "Thank you for calling his name, because he was my cousin." You know, this is real people, real lives that are people. One of the representatives of Martinique, you know, he was there, Gistique Martinique, and he was in New York and also in Azerbaijan. You know, when he was saying to me, you know, his leader is incarcerated because they're fighting for justice. They're fighting for their liberation in their country. So those things stood out. But they weren't surprising, because I live in St. Martin and I experienced COVID relief / Hurricane Irma relief coming from the Netherlands and what that looked like. Yeah, I wasn't surprised that European states are going to do what they believe they must to maintain colonies, including, you know, people disappearing. What's the new word we use? Is unaliving people? Yeah, that's the word I hear a lot. Unaliving people for whatever way. You know, people mysteriously die, we're not shocked about that. We're not, you know, necessarily saying accusing, but it's just interesting you hear these stories that it's not so, you know, uncommon to hear that. Yeah.
What's the next step? So now you're part of this big gathering of colonies, and they're all speaking with one voice.
Yes,
What's
sir.
the next move?
For us at One St. Martin, we're going to keep pushing. We've been on the local front, we've asked for a referendum, and we continue to ask for a referendum. We know that we don't need a referendum to become independent, because our parliament can simply declare it. But I don't imagine any of the parliamentarians that I've seen over the years have actually taken up that charge. And we've been trying. They won't. And so where 1SXM is concerned, we will back any, including in this election that we'll talk about, but we will back any person who's for independence or who's promoting independence, who's trying to do that. On the Caribbean front, we're aligned with CARICOM, as I mentioned, CARICOM represents, so we're still fighting there as well. And then on the international front, we'll take help from wherever we can get it. We're hoping that we get relisted on the list of non-self-governing territories. We are listed in the classifications of semi-autonomous, whatever that means. But we know in reality, this is a colony. And whether it's semi-autonomous or whatever form you want to use, it is a colony. And so we're not going to stop until we're given an opportunity to say, listen, people of St. Martin, do you wish to be independent or not? Because that's where it has come down to. And we believe that more people want to than not. And we are going to push whether it becomes a referendum and the people have a say, because that's where it will end up. And if not, if there's a declaration, but we're working until that's our end goal.
Is there the means or the possibility for this movement to go as a unit to the UN Decolonization Committee?
That seems to be the direction. From the creation of this imminent front, it seems there's a small window of opportunity because we know how the process works. You got to be here by a certain time. So at least these French territories who have signed on to this, or these groups, so I think it was like 13 of us as a group. There were 15 of us, so 2 had not signed, that are saying, listen, this group wants to be brought before the C24, including our situation. And let's see how, so that's where it's at. We're expecting that that's going to happen. And then what the process will be, once the C24 hears you, they will probably, let us know what the next step is. But that's the idea.
You spoke earlier about going through a referendum because, of course, parliamentarians may not take the option that's available in the Constitution. The other question, however, to that would be, and I know this question comes up all the time, do you think the electorate believe that we are ready for independence?
The word ready is a weird thing, because why I say that, every time I hear it, it never comes from the movement, right? It's always with somebody who has some kind of misgivings. And so when I hear that word, my first question to people is always, describe ready for me and what it means, because ready seems to be, in my, how I hear it, there's a list of, like a shopping list of things that should be accomplished, and once you reach there, you're ready. I don't know what that means. What I do believe is that everyone wants to be free and they're full, right? And I know once the population in St. Martin has all the facts, they will make that decision to become independent. I know they will. But what you get a lot in the discussion is a lot of fiction, a lot of perception. You don't get a lot of facts presented to the people. And part of the readiness in that conversation that you're asking about, once a referendum is declared, at least the way it has happened in St. Martin in the 2 referendum previously, once a referendum is declared or a date for a referendum is set, there's a referendum committee. And that referendum committee, by law, has to present the facts of the various options to the people. So what I'm suggesting in this instance, when a referendum is called, is you do exactly that. Yes or no to independence, and these are the facts. These are the facts related to independence, and these are the non-facts, or the status quo. What are the facts? And I think once the facts are known to the people, they will choose the right choice, because independence is in their interest. And you know, people, the longer you remain in a colony, the more afraid you are of leaving, the more you behave as if you cannot function outside of the colony. And I use St. Kitts as the example because when I was a teenager, the same ready conversation was being had in St. Kitts and St. Martin at the same time. And I used to tune into ZIZ. Remember, I don't know if you remember, old enough to know ZIZ, but radio station, and you know, you'd switch in and listen to the conversation in St. Kitts, and then St. Martin had the same, similar, and it was back and forth. But St. Kitts made a decision that we are going to go. St. Martin didn't make that decision, and look at where St. Kitts is now, and look at where St. Martin is. That's all I tell people. You have 2 concrete examples of 2 similar in size spaces, similar, and I believe St. Martin has more infrastructure than St. Kitts does when St. Kitts went, or even at this moment. St. Kitts has more, St. Martin has more, let's say, educated per capita people with degrees than a St. Kitts have, etc. So if you're going to ask me about readiness, I would say St. Martin is way more ready than St. Kitts ever was, but St. Kitts is very independent and very thriving, and the people in St. Kitts are not starving, right? They're not falling apart. They have the same challenges that every other country has, independent or not, throughout the world. So when I hear the ready conversation, that's my answer.
This candidate is no stranger to politics, no stranger to the St. Martin people. She's well known, very outspoken, and we're planning to have a very interesting discussion today.
Yes, we are.
Rhoda Arrindell, the number 5 candidate.
Number 5.
On the Swaliga Action Movement, SAM Party. Hi, Rhoda, how are you?
I am doing good. I'm a little stuffy. I'm under the weather here, but it's nothing that ginger, turmeric, and lime can't fix.
Caribbean recipe.
And I die by it.
Yes, indeed. All right, so I guess the question I asked some of the candidates, and in your case, you've been off the political scene for some time. Why? Why no? Why you didn't go in January? You're now here. You were involved before. You are an educator. You've been pursuing your career. You're now at Howard University. Why come back home? Why in the politics again? Why?
Let me start by saying when I did enter in 2010, it was never my intention to do politics, okay? When I entered in 2010, it's a very similar situation as to where I am right now. I had just lost my brother in April. This year I lost my mother in March.
Oh, my condolences.
Thank you. But why I'm saying that, when you are faced with certain challenges in life, it makes you look at, you look at your priorities. So when my brother had passed, before that, he used to try to get me, the people say you should get, because I always want people like you, analysts. No, and I used to say, dying for me. But when he passed, and I was in a challenging situation with my job at the university at that time, there was a lot of injustice taking place, and we were very vocal about it, so I was profiled a lot against the establishment, right, at the university. So people were seeing us talking out, and then I was approached. And I started with UPTHEN, the United People's Party, because I remember the word they used at that time was, It's a breath of fresh air in a stuffy room. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I didn't remember that one.
That was the headline that they used, that it's a breath of fresh air in a stuffy room. Because at that moment, UP was offering something different than the traditional politically whatever, right? And it was 2010.
Yes.
New status, new party, new situation, and the people were very positive and wanted to engage. And I was like, why not? I just come to a settlement with the university, so I had a little cushion of income for a while. My brother had just passed, and I was like, you know what? Let me try this, and I will tell the people of St. Martin my story and see if they think I'm worthy of serving them. That was 2010, and I got the opportunity, and I was grateful. And then the old nasty politics started happening again, and I tried in 2014, and then, you know, I didn't like the outcome. I said, I'm walking out, and I did. I officially resigned from UP, and I said, that's it, I'm done. This ain't for me. 2016, I was asked again, because again, these are elections in between elections, right?
Right.
So-called snappy elections. 2016, I said, nope, I'm going to sit this out. I'm trying to start my business. I'm going solo, do my thing on my own. And then, Andre, hurricane came, 2017.
Yeah.
I couldn't work for a while. My business had got completely destroyed. I struggled like everybody else to, you know, just to find yourself. And then for the longest while, 2018, the UP party fused with the DP. They tried UD, which I think killed UP, to be quite honest with you. And it just was nasty. And I wasn't successful in getting elected, and I left. I went to the Bahamas eventually to work. So again, I went to the Bahamas, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Came home, did virtual teaching for a while after 2 years still on my contract at the Bahamas, but I was in St. Martin, and I was feeding myself and taking care of my family. So I figured, you know, I want to stay home. I didn't renew my contract in the Bahamas. My mom was sick, and I was like, I cannot go back. I'll stay and take care of my family and do this. I like this. I couldn't get work. I really couldn't find sustainable work. And a lot of it is politics. I'll just say that here, because people don't like to say these things publicly, but the truth is politics. Once you branded, regardless of how competent you are. And I saw that when I was about to get the contract to start the law program at the university. It was supposed to be signed on the 8th of September. The hurricane came on the 6th of September, and politics just threw that out. So I said, you know what? I'm out of here. Went again looking, and then I got Howard 2023. And when they came in January, again, I was like, no, guys, I can't do this. But in the meantime, too, I didn't like where the government was going. I didn't like anything in the politics locally. You know me, I'm pro-independence. So when I see the dependency on the Netherlands after the hurricane, and it's not that you can't ask for help, but it wasn't about help with dignity. It was, you either give me this or starve, or let your people starve. So the politicians were in a position where they had to choose to let people starve or go along with the nasty politics of colonialism. And I hated that. Every part of me hated that. And I was like, I hope I never am in the position where I have to be like that. But if that's what you have to do as a politician, you do you, I'm out of here. That's not for me. In December, in January, when the election was taking place, I was in DC, and I remember saying, this is a true story, God, whatever happens, just throw it in the air, just make a change. And it didn't matter to me which party, it didn't matter to me which people, just change the direction that St. Martin was going, because I didn't like the dependence in the last 4 years. I didn't like it. And I'd expressed that to UP, and I got off the UP train in January. I said, guys, I exit here. I can't do this. And then I came home after my mom. So I was here for my mom's passing. Luckily I was here when she passed. That wasn't the plan. I came home for spring break, and I ended up staying, and then she passed. But what reminded me was the same after the hurricane. When I came back from the Bahamas after COVID, community, St. Martin. My community was here for me when my mom passed. You know, just the whole wake, the whole thing. And I was like, I don't have this in Washington, D.C. This sense of we are there for each other when
When the chips are down.
Yes. Was something that I said, I don't want to ever lose. But I didn't think there would ever be an election. I just went back to Washington with that feeling. But over the years, in the last, from 2019 to now, Frankie and I have been talking. Both of us discouraged with politics, and both of us saying, you know, but Frankie more than me, because Frankie was saying, I'm done. And I was like, Frankie, no, if you're done, then where's the hope for me? Because Frankie is a political animal. And I was like, if Frankie is done, then, you know, but I still did it in 2020. I still tried with UP, and I didn't like it, but I was there. I'm a loyalist. I'm there to the end. But I was like, you know what, this is not for me. So Frankie and I have been talking, and I was, you know, Frank, I'm working with a group of youngsters, 1SXM,
right.
And we are trying to build a movement of St. Martiners, but also in that batch you should be able to find, if not one, maybe two, maybe a few candidates that in the future we could push forward and I could support. That was the plan. That was the plan up until when I went back. And then I came home March 23rd, May 23rd. You know, at the end of the semester, now I'm going to clean up my mom's stuff and go back. And May 25th, government fell. And May 26th, Frankie was at my house. He said, remember those? I was like, yeah, but you know, and I was like, no, you, and he was like, yes. I said, nah, man, come on, Frank. But last year we had talked about it, and I was like, no, Frankie, I'm going to have this group of people we're talking to, and we were really building, you know, we have a group of very progressive, very smart, very pro-independence people on this island, and we figured maybe in the next 4 years they would be ready to enter the political scene. That was the plan.
Right.
And then Frankie reached. And then we discussed it at 1SXM. And between us, Alston, who's the secretary, Alston Lawrence, and myself, who's the president, within the group, we had to have a discussion. And, you know, Alston's position is, listen, we here trying to do this thing the right way. And all kinds of people are getting elected, and we get upset when we don't think we have the best representation. So better we run. And I was like, and then, you know, we brought Frankie for a discussion with 1SXM. We wanted to hear where his views were on independence and all of that. And I must say the youngsters, man, they grilled him. And with their blessing, with the discussion and the pact that Alston and I have, that wherever we are, we're going to work for independence. I said, okay, I can do this now. That doesn't mean I'm in here forever, but let's see what happens in this election. So that's why.
And so that partially answers my next question, which is why the SAM?
Yes.
Because, of course, you were...
None of the others make any sense to me, though. When people say this, because I hear people say, like, you know, you fit better with... I was like, no, you really don't know me. If you say that, that's because you don't understand me. Were it not the SAM, and if I was inclined, because I wouldn't have been inclined to run in this election if SAM didn't exist. The closest I could see me coming to anything that exists currently would have been now. Christopher Emmanuel.
He has been pro-independence.
Yeah, he's kind of in the middle of the fence pro-independence. Chris, you know what I mean, right? He's been, yes, he is pro-independence, but he has some buts that go along with it. Those of us that are a little more progressive don't have a but. But now is the only thing that makes sense to me in terms of a political list. None of the others do. So I couldn't see it, you know, like you should this list. No, not in the direction any of the others. Where UP was in the beginning, yes, in 2010. But now where UP was going recently, no. No. And
Sam more or less has given you that assurance.
Sam, listen, if I can't do independence, I don't come on board. So Sam, as a group, what we discussed everybody's opinions. You know, all my teams always know this is what you're bargaining for when you get me. From the very beginning, I must say this, both Theodore Heiliger and Frankie Myers, when I was there in 2010, gave me space to do independence my way and not misalign with the party. There were things that the party wasn't ready to embrace in the way I was, but there was no restriction on me as a candidate, as a minister or whatever, to do what I want, as long as I didn't jeopardize the party. And I like that because you hired me as a professional. I know my profession. And if you're going to trust the professional, trust me, I will try my best not to hurt you politically, but don't think I'm going to come and then give away my values to align with a political list. I'm not that person.
Right.
And so that was clear with Sam. That is very clear with Sam. And what I like about Sam is that you have 6 people who have already run for public office. Only 3, 4 of us, I believe 5. Yeah. Cecil Nicholas served in a cabinet, but he wasn't in the holder of an office. And the other 6 are brand new, fresh. Reminded me of myself in 2010. And I like that. Now I'm the oldest person. I'm the senior. I'm the senior in the batch. Could you imagine that? I'm the oldest. I'm, but the politically senior is Frankie. And Tamara and Chacho. I listen to them and go like, wow. And, even Miss Pamela Gordon, when she was the minister, I didn't know her. I was in the Bahamas, but I was like, who is this woman? And I was paying attention. I was like, I like this woman. I don't know who she is. Because I had never met her before. Right. So when I'm now with them, I'm like, these are kindred spirits. These are like-minded people. I can't see a better balance for me in this election than with that group.
That party.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about your days as a minister, when you were Minister of Education. You spearheaded a lot of initiatives.
Yes, sir.
Some of which, well, most of which have not continued when you left.
Unfortunately.
Talk to us about some of those things, and what do you think would have been the outcome if they had continued?
Boy, listen, we would have rocked this. I bet you, if we had stayed there, I don't think people would have had doubts about whether or not we're ready for independence. I'll tell you that much. Because 2 things, and I heard Frankie said this once, and I agree. If you look at the 7 ministers that we had in the 2010 cabinet, every single minister in that up list at that time could have been your representation anywhere in St. Martin or outside. Any one of those 7. And because of that, I thought a lot of people felt uncomfortable that if these people are given the opportunity to stay, things are going to change. Culture is going to change, the way people operate. People saw it. People saw it coming. I felt it. When we did the GB3 project, get off the block, get on the bus, get busy. The idea at that time, because you asked me what would have been the outcome, the idea when we were discussing, I was like, guys, I am so tired of driving home and seeing guys on my block. I know what it's like to be on the block. I grew up on the block. But it cannot be that these people are, because I know they're not hopeless. They just don't have direction. What can we do about this block? So we started off, and I used to like drive, pick up, and I was okay. I mapped out a route, and I said, we're going to drive through the neighborhoods, and we're going to pick up these guys on the block, and we're going to take them somewhere, and we're going to hear from them what their issue is. And we estimated that probably we will get maybe 10, 20, maybe more. We had 2 big buses in case, and we were going to get, I was looking at age group 15, 16 to maybe 20, 25. Because that's what in my head, the perception was, this is the last group. And I thought we will listen to them and we will give them whatever they need. Because the get busy part was get you to your next station. So we're going to take this bus, we're going to pick you up, we're going to drop you off here at this depot, which was going to be a retreat, we're going to work with you, etc. And we will take you on. We ended up with 80-something people on the 2 buses. We ended up with age group, the youngest was 13, the oldest was 40.
Wow.
We ended up with boys and girls. Why didn't I see girls coming? As much as I was living this reality, I didn't expect the girls from the block to be there, but they were there, and they had real stories. And I only imagine if that program were allowed. And when I started it, we didn't have it in the budget because we came and met a budget there. So we had to go get a budget amendment to be able to do the part that we did execute. So for the following year, I put it on the budget. How are we going to formalize this as a program rather than a project where government is going to assist these vulnerable youngsters and help them to find their way. Because you didn't have to reinvent everything. You could work with organizations locally and help a lot of these people. Up to today, there's a young woman that reminds me that out of that program, she got a house. She was able to get a home out of coming on because we helped her with the paperwork, we did, etc. Had that been allowed to go on for another 3-4 years, it would have changed the living reality of a lot of people in St. Martin. That's just one. When I think of the sports And that was a fight to get the National Sports Institute created. Oh, you can't do this. It's not possible. We have this. You have to break the Liol. You hear all the reasons why you can't. And I'm one of those people, when you tell me I can't, I don't even listen. I'm saying the people who think we can, let's figure out how to work this out. That's my modus operandi. So if you are the person who can, stay over there. No, we're going to get back to you, right? That's how I move. Yeah. You say we can do it. I believe we can do it. Let's figure out how to do it. Even if we have to use something and bend it to our will or create something new. What's wrong with creating new things that we don't have yet in our... So when we created the National Sports Institute, the idea was we're going to create this body, this because they said they need executing arm. But government is going to create a policy, which we started to write, that says this policy is going to guide how this thing operates. When we left, or when government was thrown down, the National Sports Institute was changed. The policy was discarded. So what you get is the next 12 years of an institution there. You're paying salaries. People are doing, and they're doing their best, trust me. The workers are doing what they can with what they have, but there's nothing to guide it. You know, you put an individual, you ask for miracles, but there's no guidance. There's no policy. There's no accountability for a national vision for what you want for sports. I think those things need to come back. Those are things that can concretely change the lives of the average St. Martiner, the lives of athletes, in terms of young athletes, aspiring athletes that want to do more, but also recreational sports, how you can do that better as a community. And then don't ask me about education, you know. You know, my baby is let's just redo this whole thing. You know, let's create a more empowering structure where our children are not funneled into these so-called streams and then predetermine their future based on some crazy idea of numbers at the age of 12, you know, something called an FBE exam and in a whole structure. I think that's so outdated, and we can create a much simpler, more progressive and more empowering educational system.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be my next point, because we've always heard how education needs to be modernized and come to the times. What are some of the things you think that is lacking in the education system here that needs to be? Okay,
I'll give you one, because I agree with you. I hear a lot of people say that, but when you ask them what,
right, they're not able to say.
They say things like hotel school. I go like, yo, that's so 50s. That's so. We're not there anymore. If you look at modern education in terms of what is being required of the graduate today, this has to be a person who has critical thinking skills. That's the most important skill any graduate is going to have to need. That person is going to have creativity as a skill, because he's either going to create something, invent an app, or he's going to have to be able to think quickly and solve problems, so problem solving skills. He's going to, so regardless to whatever direction he goes in, or she, they're going to need those skills. So you have to create an education system that's going to cultivate those skills.